How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Ayin Vav, Daf 76 of Masechta Ksubis, friends. Today we talk about some kind of interesting stuff. I'd say. It's like, we're talking about the situation with the mums and discovering it in the father's house or after marriage. And it relates to the situation with Reuven and Shimon. They own a cow. Reuven owns a cow. Shimon owns a donkey. It's a whole thing. So here we go. We're going to start in Daf Ayin Vav Amud Aleph. About 6 lines from the bottom, L'maaseh. So here we go. Amr B'Yehuda Mishmor. Says Rav Yehuda in the name of Mishmor. Hamachlif pari b'chomer. Oy vavoy. U'moshach ba'al hachomer es hapari. V'lo yispik ba'al hapari limshoch es hachomer. Ad shemeis hachomer al ba'al hachomer lo v'raya shechamoru kaim b'shas m'shichas pari. V'tanetune kale. My oh my. Who can explain this to me? Well, then I'll explain it to you. You got Reuven. Reuven is the proud owner of a cow. Well, I don't know, maybe not so proud because he's getting rid of it. Reuven has a cow, Shimon has a donkey. Okay? Reuven and Shimon decide they're gonna switcherooify. So now, so what they do is, Shimon comes to Reuven's house, and he does a kinyan meshicha. He pulls Reuven's cow, right? Shimon comes to Reuven's house, pulls Reuven's cow, probably like 4 amos or something. From now on, we'll refer to it as chapping a rein. So Shimon comes and he chaps a rein, Reuven's cow. And, so now Reuven's cow is his, and then Shimon's donkey now becomes Reuven's because they're switcherooing. They're switcherooing. Because they're switcherooing. So Reuven's cow becomes Shimon's, and Shimon's donkey becomes Reuven's. Okay. Now the thing is, they get to Shimon's house, and Shimon's donkey is dead. Now it's a mess because we don't know when Shimon's donkey died. If Shimon's donkey died before he chapped a rein Reuven's cow, well then the chapping a rein didn't accomplish anything because his donkey was already dead at the time. But if the donkey was still alive at the time that Shimon chapped a rein Reuven's cow, so Beseder chapped a rein Reuven's cow now belongs to Shimon, Shimon's donkey now belongs to Reuven, and then the donkey dies. Sorry Reuven, what do you want me to tell you? But it's your donkey apparently. It's your donkey now that died. Okay. So with that excellent explanation, let's read it again. Amr B'Yehuda Mishmor says Rav Yehuda in the name of Mishmor. Hamachlif pari b'chomer. So you have Reuven and Shimon. Reuven owns a cow. Shimon owns a donkey, and they're doing a switcheroo. So umoshach ba'al hachomer es hapari. Shimon goes to Reuven's house and chaps a rein Reuven's cow. V'lo hispik ba'al hapari limshoch es hachomer. Now Reuven didn't have the opportunity to chap a rein Shimon's donkey ad shemeis hachomer until Shimon's donkey died. Al ba'al hachomer laviraya shehaya chamoro kaim b'shas meshichas par. So listen to this. The burden of proof is on Shimon. Shimon needs to prove that at the time that he chapped a rein Reuven's cow, his donkey was still alive. And if he cannot prove that, then he's got to give back Reuven's cow to him. So if Shimon wants to hold on to Reuven's cow, the burden of proof is upon him to prove that at the time that he chapped a rein Reuven's cow, his donkey was still alive. V'tanetune kala. And similarly, we learn out by a kala. Hey kala. How does this situation with Reuven and Shimon and their respective animals, how does that relate to, how does that relate to our Mishnah? About if the mum was discovered with the father, or maybe the mum was discovered after marriage. So ilim, if you say kala b'veis avio, well, if you say that this is similar to when the mum is discovered in her father, when she's with her father, when she's in her father's house. Midami, but how is that similar? Hosum, right? Because we say over there the burden of proof is on the father. So hosum maisi avraya umapik, hocha maisi balacham raya umukim. Those are different situations, because in the situation of the mumin, of the husband and wife, so the father brings a proof that the mum emerged after Kiddushin, and then he can extract money from the husband. Whereas over here, Shimon is bringing a proof that the donkey was alive at the time of the Chapping Arayin, so that he can continue to hold on to his money, otherwise he'll lose it. So in the case of the father, he's extracting money from the husband. In the case of Shimon, he's, fighting to keep possession of his money, not to extract money, but to keep possession of the money that he currently has. So those are different cases. Right? So again, top line of Ayin Vav Mud Beis. Hosam, in the case of the husband and wife, Maisi Avraya, the father brings a proof, Umapik, and he extracts money from the husband. Hocha, but in this case, Maisi Balachom, Shimon brings a proof, Umukim, and that by doing so he can maintain what was I saying? Maintain ownership, possession of the money. So those are opposite kind of cases. Amar Baba says Rabba, Kala beveis chamia. Okay, so Rabbi Abba says, no, it's talking about it's talking about after marriage. Oh, so if it's after marriage, and we're saying that the husband needs to bring a proof that the mum emerged prior to the betrothal so that he can maintain his money and that he shouldn't have to pay the ksuba, just like Shimon, who's proving that he should be able to maintain his cow. So Amar Rabbi Abba says, Rabbi Abba, Kaleb Veis Chamia, rather it is like the after marriage, when the husband is trying to prove that the mum was prior to betrothal so that he can maintain his money and not have to pay the ksuba vakati, but still, lo dami, they're not similar. Hosam pal maisi raya umirale lechazoke de av hocha balachomer maisi raya umukim chazoke biyode. But the thing is, in the case of the husband and wife, the chazaka is working in favor of the father. And therefore, by the husband and wife, after marriage, the husband needs to prove that the mum existed already prior to Kiddushin, because the chazaka is working against him. The chazaka was that she wasn't born with a mum, and therefore at the time of Kiddushin she didn't have a mum, and therefore based on that chazaka we're going to be extracting ksuba payment from the husband, and if the husband wants to hold on to his money, he has to disprove that, right, or prove that we cannot rely upon the chazaka by proving that she had mumin already prior to Kiddushin. So the chazaka is working against him, and therefore he has to bring proof to sort of undo the chazaka. Whereas over here, what's interesting about the case with Shimon and Reuven and the cows is that here the chazaka is working in Shimon's favor. That the donkey was alive beforehand, and we should have assumed that the donkey was also alive at the time that Shimon chapped around the cow. So what's interesting about this case with Reuven and Shimon is that Shimon is being forced to prove that the donkey was alive in order to maintain possession of his cow, of the cow that he chapped around from Reuven, even though the chazaka is working in his favor that the donkey was alive at the time of the chapping around. So again, vakati lo dami, these situations are in similar hosam. When it comes to the husband and wife, bal maisi raya, it is the burden of proof is on the husband. Umirale lechazake de'av, he brings a proof in order to weaken the chazaka of the father, which is that the wife did not have a mum at the time of kiddushin. But in the case of Reuben and Shimon and the cow and the donkey, Balachomer, Maisi Raya, Shimon is being forced to bring a proof, Umukim Chazake Biyate, in order to establish the chazaka that he already has going for him in his favor. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Kal b'veis avia v'lekiddushin. So rather says Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak that actually it is talking about the Kala when she is in her father's house. So the comparison is to the father to when she's in her father's house. Now, the question that we had asked is yes, but when she's in her father's house, it's right, the father is trying to extract payment from the husband, whereas in the case of Reuben and Shimon and the donkey, Shimon is trying to maintain possession of his money, not extract money. But actually, when the Kala is in her father's house, if it were to be proven, right, if we were to say that the mum was already at the time of kiddushin, well then the father would have to give back the kesef kiddushin to the husband. So actually, right, so again, if the mum is discovered in the father's house, when she's in her father's house, and we're going to assume that the mum was already there at the time of kiddushin, well then, if so that it was there at the time of kiddushin, well then the kiddushin is off and he's going to have to give back the kesef kiddushin. So actually in this case also, the father, the burden of proof is on the father to prove that the mum only emerged after kiddushin so that he can hold on to his kesef kiddushin that he received from the husband and will not have to give it back, just like Shimon, who's being forced to prove that the donkey was alive at the time of the Chapin Arayin, so that he can hold on to his cow and not have to give it back to Reuven. So again, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Kala v'Savia, that actually it is talking about the Kala when she's in her father's house, v'lekiddushin, and it's talking about the kesef kiddushin, that the father is trying to prove that the mum only emerged after kiddushin so that he can maintain possession of the kesef kiddushin. V'lo and do not say libitaman da amar kiddushin lav l'tivu nitnu, and don't say that this is specifically according to the opinion that kiddushin is not given forever. Even according to the opinion that kiddushin is given forever, that is only certain kiddushin, aval kiddushay taus, but kiddushay taus, mistaken kiddushin, imaisi raya in, ilo maisi lo. Look, as long as if you could bring a proof to prove that this case of mumin happened after the kiddushin, so then he can hold on to the case of kiddushin. But if he can't prove that, so then he will have to give it back. Fine. Okay, givaldik meisvei. However, we take have a kasha. Machat shenimtzeis beovi beis hakosis. All right, fine. So the ma'aseh, if you have a cow and you slaughter the cow, right? So you have a guy, you have a butcher. A butcher buys a live cow from a farmer, and he then slaughters the cow. And when they slaughter the cow, they find in this part of the stomach, that I guess we'll probably learn a lot more about in Chulin, this like thick part of the stomach, they find a needle that would be a treifa, that would make the animal a treifa. So now, machat shenimtzes ba'ovi beis hakosis. So if you find this needle in the, in the intestines of this cow, mitzad echod, well, if the needle is only puncturing from one side, but not all the way through, so ksheris, then it's kosher. Mishnei tzadin, but if it's puncturing from both sides straight through, treifa, so then it's a treifa. Nimtza alea kort dam, if there's blood on the needle, b'yadur shu lifnei shchita, then that means that the needle was already there from prior to slaughter. Lo nimtza alea kort dam, but if there isn't blood on it, b'yadua, so then it is non shulach shchita. then if there is not a koret of blood on it, so that means that the needle got put in there in after shchita. Huglad piyamake, if the wound already kind of congealed, so that means that the wound happened 3 days, right? At least 3 days before slaughter. So, therefore, if he slaughters the animal and he finds this needle and the wound was already congealed, so it means that the needle was there for at least 3 days, which means that if he slaughtered it within the past 3 days, so memele, he bought it that way, so the butcher can go back to the farmer and say, brother, you sold me a needled cow, a treifa. Lo glad piyamaka, but if the wound had not congealed, well then amotzi mechaver olav araya. Well then the butcher is going to have to, the burden of proof is on the butcher. V'yoav tabach demei boy le'isui rayu umapik. And therefore if the butcher paid the farmer already for the cow, and then he slaughtered it, right? So the butcher purchased the cow, he slaughtered it, he found this needle, and it was a treifa, but the wound hadn't yet congealed, so therefore, it's unclear if the needle got in there before he purchased it or after he purchased it. If the butcher had already paid for the animal, well, if he wants to extract the money from the farmer, he's going to have to prove that he purchased it with the needle already installed in the intestines. And unless he can prove that, he's going to be stuck with the loss. Ve'amai. Why? Just like we're requiring Shimon to prove that the donkey was alive in order to hold on to his cow, to Reuven's cow. So why don't we say that the burden of proof is on the farmer to prove that at the time that he sold it there was no needle in the intestines in order for him to be able to maintain possession of the money that he received for the cow? Well, it's talking about where the butcher did not pay for the cow yet. So my psaka, how do you know that it's talking about where the butcher didn't pay for the cow yet? Ella, rather, when Rambam Bar Yechezkel came, Omer, he said, Lo titzaisinu laniklale dechal Yehuda achi mishmei deshmuel. When Rav Yehuda's brother Rami came, he said, look, don't listen to what you're hearing from my brother Yehuda. Hachi Omer Shmuel, this is actually what Shmuel said, Kol shenolad sofek birshuso, that look, when it comes to Reuven and Shimon, and the cow and the donkey, in whoever's possession the suffix emerged, olav haraya, upon him is the burden of proof, v'tanatuna kala, and we see that from our Mishnah with the kala. So therefore, Rami Bar Yechezkel is saying that no, actually what Shmuel said is that, look, in our case where Reuven has a cow and Shimon has a donkey and they're going to switcheroo, so if Shimon were to go to Reuven and chaparan Reuven's cow, and then when they go, and when Shimon's going to, and when Reuven's going to go chaparan Shimon's donkey, right, so Shimon chaparan Reuven's cow, if when Reuven goes to chaparan Shimon's donkey, he finds Shimon's donkey is dead, well, they discovered this dead donkey once Shimon had already chaptaran Reuven's cow, which means that at that time the donkey was already considered in Reuven's possession, which means that they own this question emerging about when did this donkey die emerged when it already belonged to Reuven. So therefore Reuven, if he wants to extract the donkey from Shimon, is going to have to bring a proof. The burden of proof is going to be upon Reuven, and that's just like our Mishnah where we say that if the father wants to extract the Ksubis payment from the husband, he's going to have to prove that that the mum emerged only after Kiddushin. Meisve, the Gemara asks a kasha, Machachinim says, Bavi beis hakosis v'chule. What about the situation where the needle is found in the cow? V'idelo yoyev tabuch d'mei, and we say that if the butcher has not yet paid for the animal, well then the farmer is going to have to bring a proof. He's going to have to prove that the needle got there post-sale in order to be able to force the butcher to pay him. Ve'amai, why should he have to prove that? Sveika b'rshus tabach isilid. After all, the suffix only emerged in the possession of the butcher. Right? The suffix only emerged after the butcher slaughtered the animal. So why should the farmer have to prove that the needle got into the intestines after he sold it? Since the suffix emerged in the butcher's possession, the butcher's, right, he's the one who should have to prove that the needle was there prior to the sale. The farmer should be able to extract the money regardless. So Diyoiv Tabach Tamei. Well, it's talking about where the butcher already did pay for it. My psaka, why are you assuming that the butcher already paid for it? Stama de Milsa Kamadul Yoiv Inish Zuze Lo Yoiv Inish Chayusa. Because it's logical to say that unless the farmer receives the money, he's not going to be giving a cow to the butcher. And therefore, Mistame, the farmer received the cow already, and it is the farmer received the money already, and it is the butcher who's trying to extract the money from the farmer to say that he bought a cow that already had a needle, and the burden of proof is on the butcher. The Chacham said that the husband can only claim mekach tos by the mumin if these are hidden mums, but not by visible mums. Omer of Nachman, v'nichpa kemumin shebeseisodam. He says of Nachman that epilepsy is considered like a hidden mum. V'hanimile dekviele zman. That's only if there are specific times for these epileptic episodes. Because if she knows when she has these epileptic episodes, so then she can kind of stay out of public and keep it to herself during those times and just, stay away. But but if she doesn't have specific times, they could happen any random time that she doesn't know, and when she should kind of stay home if she doesn't want anybody to see. So then if they can happen at any random time, so then they're considered kimum and shibagalui, revealed mums. Friends, that was Daf Ayin Vav of Masechta Ksubis. The main sugya today, of course, was this interesting sugya of the cow and the donkey, starring Reuven and Shimon. We wanted to say that it was upon Shimon to bring proof if he wants to hold on to the donkey. We're trying to figure out how to tie that into our Mishnah. In the end, we say that no, whoever is in possession of the donkey at the time that the suffix emerges, he's the one who's going to have to bring the burden of proof. Friends, that was Daf Ayin Vav Masechta Ksubis. Hope you enjoyed. Peace out.